Viva, viva, viva. It's not market update. It's we're gonna take a look what's happening in Sri Lanka. There was financial collapse, and these are getting very, very bad down there. So I want to take a look, just go through it and see what caused. Um, what can we learn from that, and uh, hopefully, looking at it the same time as for those that live in a third developed country. So it's a good way to start analyzing that. So if that happens to your country, you have to know how to position yourself so you won't be struggling. So you know, so this is a cool thing, not a cool thing because whatever we can do to help those people down there, and just my opinion, I think is cool, is way better than just watch, right? And you can help in different ways, guys. In my opinion, you can help in different ways. And, a lot of people think giving money is only the way to help. Nah, there's so many things you can do to help people instead of just giving money. All right, so I want to start up with this quote. Was by Robert Kiyosaki. He said, "History reminds us that dictators and despots arise during times of severe economic crisis." So, yeah, that's actually quite right. Uh, we have a good example here in our country. All right, so let's take a look at this. CNBC article says that Sri Lanka declares bankruptcy. What happens next? Is a quote here that sums the whole thing, what's going on in this article. So, which is Sri Lanka's economy, which has been flooded since 2020, is facing its worst economic crisis in over 70 years, with inflation rising to record levels, food prices skyrocketing, government cover running dry. While the government blamed the pandemic for the deliberating economic situation, many experts have said it was caused by political mismanagement and racking up debt with China. We keep hearing this over and over again from every country, every government. Political mismanagement, racking up debts. See what I mean? They get the government so big, they open so many departments, so many ministries, and the budget has to increase. All right, so we're gonna take a look at what will happen now. To ease, let me just highlight, to ease the suffering of the people, Sri Lanka has entered negotiation with the International Monetary Funds, for those who don't know, the FME or IMF, to save the economy. This is give this guys more power, man. Behind the FME, as you know, FME and BIS is the powerful people that control the whole thing. So I did a video, I think it was 2-3 days ago, that we actually mentioned a couple of things about IMF and BIS. If you want to know more what that means, go on that video. I actually explain what that means. But for just for fun facts. Okay, so to ease the suffering of the people, Sri Lanka has entered negotiation with the International Monetary Funds, IMF, to save the economy. IMF officials visit the capital, Colombo, between June 20 and 30, and held discussion with the Sri Lankan official in economic reforms, policies that could be supported by the IMF extended fund facility arrangement. Acknowledge that the negotiation with the IMF to revive the country collapsed and kind of were difficult. Recommends, my apologies if I just back to your name, told the parliament of the country was not in talks as the bankruptcy nation rather than developing one. CNN reported, however, he said Sri Lanka will have to face a more difficult and complicated situation than previous negotiation now. So just to finalize. I think right here, as soon as I highlight, just comes that thing from Twitter. I don't want to share that. Due to the state of the bankruptcy our country is in, we have to submit a plan on our debt substantial. It's incredible, this guys. Before they got into this whole mess, they didn't have a plan. Now that they in a mess, they want to just draw a plan to so we can manage better their money. It's just crazy, man. So we have to submit a plan on our debt sustainability to IMF separately. The the PM said it. Once the IMF is satisfied with the plan, an agreement will be drawn at the staff level. Yeah, you know what that means at the staff level? It means some guys are getting paid, and most people won't be getting paid. Yeah, not a solution, man. Not a solution. Adding to that, this is not a straightforward process. Of course, it's not. All right, so there's more to this article. If you want to read it, you know I'm gonna post it below the video. All right, so Sri Lanka petrol. Why is the country in an economic crisis? This is an article by BBC. Um, and the one thing I want to just look at it is right over here. Why have the fuel sales been suspended? This is crazy, guys. Most of the third countries, fuel is very important because of the transportation, you know, and even for, you know, the developed countries, they do have a lot of, you know, electrical transportation. They still need fuel. Imagine a third world country that they don't have not even 0.5 or 0.1% of the transportation are electric cars or electric form of transportation. Imagine if they got caught up from oil or petrol products. So why have the fuel sales been suspended? Sri Lanka doesn't have enough foreign currency to pay for imports, including petrol and diesel. You see that? See how it is? The vaults are empty. It's completely empty. Even if they print their money, their currency, it has no value. It won't buy anything from the trading world. So it is hatching sales of fuel to ordinary people until 10th of July. It is thought to be the first country to do so since 1970s. At the weekend, officials said it had less than a week worth of fuel left for its essential services like buses, trains, and medical vehicles. This is very crazy, man. It's actually, it might get even worse just because of that. So you cut out transportation is very crazy, man. It's crazy, crazy, crazy. You know, they will get off. They'll find a solution for sure because people we adapt. There's more here. Schools have closed in the country's 22 million residents have been asked to work from home. What more? How else have people been affected? Shortage of food, fuel have caused prices to soar. Inflation is now running at a 30%. It's actually lower than than Angola's inflation. It's crazy, man. There have been power cuts. Lacks of medicine has brought the health system to the average of collapse. Protests have spread it across the islands recent months. I want to go back to here, the inflation thing. As soon as you have a total collapse financial system, and they saying inflation is now running at 30%, it's actually more than 100 or even more than that. So yeah, they just want to alarm people, but the inflation probably is up there. It's very bad. It's definitely very bad because the currency has no value right now. So here, why is Sri Lanka's economy in crisis? Sri Lanka foreign currency reserve have virtually run dry. So in simple words, they ran out of dollars in Europe. He failed to make payments on his foreign debt for the first time in its history. They have to sell the country to the Chinese. Yeah, don't be surprised if that happens. The government blames the COVID pandemic. Yeah, that's what the government do. They gotta find somebody to blame because they can't manage. They don't know how to manage. There's just a bunch of guys don't want to talk, which affected Sri Lanka's tourist trade. One of the biggest foreign currency earner. It also says stores has been fractured, frightening off by the severe of deadly bombs attacks in the churches in 2019. However, many experts say the economic mismanagement is to blame. Yeah, I want to focus on that mismanagement. I think how Sri Lanka war hero became a villain. At the end of the Civil War, I don't think we want to go into that, but yeah. Yeah, if you want to just keep reading, there's definitely more data here. Definitely, they won't be releasing what their plan is yet because that's what they say. That's confident. No, that is. All right, so we're gonna take a look at Wikipedia. There's something very interesting here. And Wikipedia says that the financial crisis in Sri Lanka started in 2019. We saw the first article says it started in 2020. But here it says even since Wikipedia says it is the country worst economic crisis since independence in 1948. It has led to unprecedented levels of inflation. Sorry about that. Near depletion of foreign exchange reserves, shortage of medical supplies, and an increase in prices of basic commodities. So basic commodities, you guys know, the things that we use day to day, food and other stuff. The crisis is said to have begun due to the multiple compounded factors like money creation, printing money. You know what I mean? Printing money. It's just the value is the power of your currency. Yeah. And then imagine that the dollar is losing purchase power, and then your currency is pegged to dollar. And now the dollar is going up, it's going way up. What happens to your currency? It goes down. It's not gonna go up, guys. It goes down because you need to pay your debts in dollars. The only way for you to get dollars, you need to have a product so you can trade, right? The people that buy your product will pay you in dollars, so your reserve you have some dollars to purchase stuff that you don't have. So that's what I'm saying. The dollar goes up, they print more of the currency goes down, the dollar keeps going up. They have to find a way to get more dollars so they can pay their debt. As soon as they pay their debt with dollars, dollar will keep increasing. At the same time, the economy will just get destroyed. A nationwide policy to shift to organic and biological farming. Look, now they're looking at farming now. The Easter bombing in 2019 and the impact of COVID-19 pandemic, especially economy hardships, result in the 2020 Sri Lankan protesting. Wow, man. I feel sorry, man. Sorry for the people there. All right, so we have another article here from the Indian Express explain what led to Sri Lanka's economic crisis and who's helping. The same thing. You're gonna hear. How did Sri Lanka get here? Crisis say the roots of the crisis, the worst and severe decades lie in economic mismanagement by succeeding governments that created and sustained a twin defected a budget shortfall alongside a currency account defect. Sri Lanka is a classic twin defective economy, said the 2019 Asia Development Bank working paper. Twin defective signal that a country national expenditure exceed its national income. So pretty much they spending more than they can actually afford, or they're spending more they can um they can more they can actually have. In simple words, let me just simplify. They're using that to fund whatever they're doing. That's pretty much it. When you don't have the you want to buy a car, um they'll explain it this way. uh you want to buy a car that costs 100,000, you only have 20,000. You're gonna grab that 20,000, you're gonna get a loan so you can buy a car that costs you 100,000, but you only have 20,000. If you give your guarantees, and they will give you that 100,000, you buy that car. That car will give you an expenses in between 30 to 50,000. Remember, you don't even you didn't have the 20,000. And now you have what you call a liability, and that is costing you 20 to 50,000 monthly or yearly. So, they kept doing that, borrowing money, and now they find themselves in a big hole. So, what else we have here? Okay, they just focus on the tourism industry, like it's the only industry that the Sri Lanka survives with, which is not. With the country lucrative tourism industry, foreign worker remittance sapped by the pandemic, credit ratings agency moved to downgrade Sri Lanka and effectively locked it out of international capital markets. So they don't even have access to the forex. That's pretty much capital market. So they can get money when they can get debt to get the country going. In turn, Sri Lanka debt management program, which depend on ascending those markets, derailed foreign exchange reserves, plummeting by almost 70% in 2 years. The Rajapakas, government's decision to ban all chemical fertilizer in 2021, a move that was later reversed, also hit the country's farm sector and triggered a drop in a critical rice crop. I don't really understand those guys, man. You are a third country. You're a third developed country, right? You look at that. You make a decision to ban all chemical fertilizer. So the farmers, they're not able to use the chemical fertilizer. I don't understand here if they actually producing the fertilizer or if they just use it. So either way, you abandon, you haven't find a different way for you to farm, especially for you to feed your people. And you tell the farmers, okay, stop using chemical fertilizer and just find a different way. And you don't kind of teach or show them there's a different way for you to farm. So look at that. And as soon as they made that move later on, it didn't last too long. They reversed that. Yeah, it's just crazy, man. These leaders, man. It's just what happens with Sri Lanka foreign debt. As of February, the country was left with only 2.31 billion in its reserves, but faces debt repayment of around 4 billion. So that's pretty much what I was explaining to you guys. Buying a car at 100,000, but you only have 20,000. 4 billion in 2022, including 1 billion international sovereign bond ISB maturing in July, which now ISBS make up the largest share of Sri Lanka's foreign debt at a 12.55 billion. They have 12.55 billion in debt. That's crazy. That's with the Asian Development Bank, Japan, and China among the other major lenders. So, a review of the country's economic released last month, the IMF says that the public debt has risen to unsustainable levels, and foreign exchange reserves were insufficient for a near short-term debt payments. In a note late last month, City Research said that the IMF report's conclusion, the government's recent measures were insufficient. I can't even pronounce that, man. To restore the debt sustainability, strongly indicating the need for debt restructuring. So, in simple words, the IMF rejected the plan, and they probably just they wanted to get rich of the IMF money. Anyways, that's just a joke, man. What causes Sri Lanka economic collapse? That's the EP news. See what they say. What led the protesters? We just highlight real quick. 4 months, Sri Lanka have had to wait in a long lines to buy essential items because the foreign exchange crisis caused shortage of imported food. Remember that imported food, guys, medicine and fuel, which is pretty much what they import. See, medicine, and they import food and fuel. Remember the last article, they said the government has banned farmers to use fertilizer, and then they allow them to use it again. So, which is, oil shortage, oil shortfalls have led to sweeping policy cuts. So, pandemic and the Russian-Ukraine conflict have made things worse, but warnings of potential economic disaster began long before. In 2019, President Rashad Bakas swept the power months after the Eastern suicide bombings of the church, and hotels killed 290 people. The attacks badly damaged the tourism and key source of foreign exchange. They pretty much saying that most of they keep saying that. They keep saying the foreign exchange or the tourism industry was the only source of the foreign current or the foreign capital that came in the country. I don't think so. I think they probably have other products or goods that would bring exchange, that would bring foreign foreign currency to their country. All right. Lastly, what happened is the conversation.com, the article from conversation.com, was happening in Sri Lanka and how did the economic crisis started. We go down, here it is. Why are some people blaming China? I know you were waiting for this, eh? Okay, so many believe Sri Lanka's economic relations with China are a main driver behind the crisis. I don't believe that. It's just mismanagement. The government, they always mismanage. They always want to increase. They always want to get big and big and big. And then, it's the same thing. When you have a small house, your expenses are, that might work for some people. But when you have a small house, in terms of maintaining that house, it's a lot cheaper when you have a big house. If you have a 1-2 bedroom house, your maintenance costs will be cheaper than maintaining a 5-bedroom house. That's pretty much it. But when you increase, your budget will increase. Your maintenance costs will double or triple. So that's pretty much it. What most of the government they do, they keep doing this. They keep updating their houses. They keep increasing the bedrooms. So the United States has called the phenomenon debt trap diplomacy. Yeah, right. That part there I can probably agree with that. But they do the same thing. Come on, man. This is where a creditor country or institution exceed debt to borrowing nation to increase the lender's political leverage. If the borrower extend itself and cannot pay the money back, they are at a credit's mercy. That's pretty much, we'll go back to that example I gave the card. you're buying 100,000 car and you only have 20,000 to pay, and then you have to go and put that 20,000 as a collateral and get the 100,000 to buy a debt to buy the car. However, loans from China accounted for only about 10%. See, of Sri Lanka's total foreign debt in 2020. The largest portion, about 30%, can be attributed to the international sovereign bonds. Japan actually accounts for a higher proportion of the debt foreign at 11%. See, people want to point fingers, but if you look at the numbers never lie. The falls over China's infrastructure-related loans to Sri Lanka, especially financing of the Hambantota port, are being cited as a factor contribute to the crisis. Yeah, the thing is, we read all these articles. The only thing they just want to point fingers that they just want to find things that do not, there's one thing that mentions mismanagement of capital, government's mismanagement of capital. That's actually is one thing that I believe people should focus on it. And at the same time, I don't think it's to be blamed because the mismanagement of capital is the same thing that led for them to sign those contracts or to get those loans for different countries, right? That they have loans with. So it's all about the mismanagement of capital, the mismanagement of funds. The government didn't have the balls to accept that. They didn't know what they're doing, and it's not just Sri Lanka. It's a lot of the country, especially the third developed countries. They in the same deep problem with in their financial system, and I fear that Sri Lanka is not the first one, which I told before. Greece has declared bankruptcy before a couple of years ago, and European Union just come in and just flooded a couple of years just to shut it down, the whole collapse. But at the end of the time, the whole European Union, it's about to collapse. We know what happened to UK. So yeah, but now we are at the last article. Now I want to reflect. I want us to reflect it and understand what happens when an economy collapses. It means that the currency has collapsed. There's no value. The currency has lost its value. So lost its value. So how do they people buy food? How do they people live in the day to day? People that have been prepared, people that are prepared in their country, they're probably being, now doing things one step at a time. People that weren't prepared, and this is like a surprise. Most people will march. Most people will get angry and they can't even think. They will just go through with manifesting and doing crazy stuff. So, but it's a very hard time when an economic collapse, and it's very very difficult. Very difficult. Normally that when economies collapse, people start manifesting and doing crazy stuff. And you know what happens next? War, civil war comes in, and then the first quote that I told you guys from I showed you guys from Robert Kiyosaki. In the midst of all this madness, there's always one guy that comes in with the great, but a very sinister story behind their words. They come in, they come to the people, they say they have the solution, and there you go, the whole dictator surge, and you know what happens. So guys, this this is something for us to think about it. This is something us to learn. And there's so many lessons, not just in the level of the governments, but in the level of every citizen and everyone that is actually seeing and understanding. Do your research more if you want to understand what can you do. Um, what I suggest is just to look, what can you park some of your money, in your country? What can you park some of your money outside of your country? How can you park? What are the assets that you can actually put some of your money there outside or inside of your country? At the same time, what can you do when you can't buy food in your country? What can you have? Do you have a land that you can plant? Do you know how to plant? If you have something plant or you know how to plant, you can have products coming out of your land and you can trade. So land is something very important. And as the hard times, land is very important, especially lands that have water in it. So this is one of the assets that actually works pretty good when you're in a crisis, especially if you do have somebody that works for you or is with you that knows how to farm, right? This is very important. If you do have a land, but yeah, there's no one around you that know how to plant or how to farm, it's kind of useless, right? So yeah. So all right, guys. So this was just a quick overview to see what's going on in Sri Lanka, because we know what happened in Turkey back in a couple months ago. I did a video, and the Turkey currency had collapsed almost 80%. So we kind of did a deep dive on it, to understand and look at that. The same thing we looked at it. Most of the thing we looked at it, we went deeper than on this video, but it's almost the same thing. The same errors being repeated too. So, all right, guys, get your comments in there, share, like, and yeah, we're going through a hard time, but understand this is the greatest opportunity that we having right now. I know there's a lot of people will suffer. Um, we'll even we all gonna suffer. We all gonna find hard times. We all have to adapt and change our lifestyle for a bit, because this whole economic collapse, the global economic reset, it might take a while. It might take 4 or 5, 6 years, or it might just take a couple of months, or it might take a couple or 1 year or 2 years. But you gotta be prepared. You gotta be mentally prepared, and you gotta be prepared. All right. See ya at the next video. Don't forget to like and comment. All right.